Welcome to another great day in the Haven. Today I'm in conversation with debut author, novelist J.S. Living. Hey, studio audience. J.S. has written a wonderful adventure entitled The Covenant of Blood. She is a recipient of an MFA in writing, and J.S. has dabbled in novellas, comic books, and short stories, and has penned her first novel that takes you into the world of supernatural bloodthirsty vampires. Please join me in welcoming J.S. Living to the Haven. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, first of all, we got to show this beautiful book.
Yes.
It is called The Covenant of Blood. Beautiful book. So, this is your first novel.
Yes.
What inspired you to write it?
See, I knew you were going to ask me that question.
Oh. So you rehearsed it?
No, well, I've told this story like countless times, so it's
Okay.
not even rehearsed at this point. It's just rote memory.
Okay.
Okay, so I was teaching a creative writing class at the library in my hometown, Augusta, Georgia. And one of the prompts I gave to my students was about writing a letter. And so at the time, I was also teaching a class at Augusta University. And to those students, I was telling them about Elizabeth Bathory-Tepes. Elizabeth Bathory.
Mm-hmm.
And we were, because it was like an exercise and like learning how to cite your sources and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I guess I'll write my letter about that because that's just, what we're doing right now. So then I wrote the letter, and that was like the thing that started the book. And then I was like, I wonder what would happen if Elizabeth Bathory and Vlad the Impaler had a kid, since they're both known as the first vampires.
Uh-huh.
And
is that like true vampire lore?
Yeah, so.
For those of us who are not familiar.
Okay, so Vlad the Impaler is known as Dracula in Bram Stoker's book Dracula. He got that title because he was rumored, well, not rumored too, he actually had his enemies, he would impale them on sticks and have buckets under them, and the buckets would fill with the blood of the people who were impaled. And then the theory was that he would take that blood and drink it, which is how Bram Stoker came up with his version of Dracula, and hence why we have all the lore about that.
Right.
As for Elizabeth Bathory, the mother in the book, she is known as the first female vampire because she's rumored to have bathed in the blood of her servants and the other women who she, killed because she was a serial killer. So, yeah. Based in lore.
Okay. So very, very interesting. And I've often wondered, what is this fascination about vampires? We've had so many television series and movies about them, and you wrote a book about them. So, what is the fascination from your perspective, and what compelled you to write about them?
I think in general the fascination is just that vampires are supposed to be like these mysterious, sneaky, aloof thing, and also I think it's the romance thing.
Yeah, the sexiness of
yeah. I think it's the sexiness and the romance. Crazy. And it just makes people be like, I think I want to know what that's like, or want to live in that. And so, with our great imaginations, writers and other people just really get into it.
Okay. So, talk to us about the title. How did the title come to fruition?
The title took some work because...
Did you have a working title before?
I had several, and I wish I brought my little notebook in here, but I didn't. I left it in my car. I could have told you some of the other titles I came up with, but essentially, some of them dealt with the book started out as novellas. So there's 3 sections in it. So those section titles were the original novella titles.
Okay.
Before I combine it into one book.
Very clever.
And so the novella titles, I went through a lot of different versions of those. I think one of them was going to be a letter to mother, and then it was mother bites back and some other stuff. initially was gonna focus on just her finding her. It focuses on her finding her mother, but eventually it was supposed to be more of the mother's story incorporated in there. But by the time I finished the whole thing, it wasn't like that at all.
Okay.
So it turned into more of the thing about promises and promises being broken. And then another word for a promise is a covenant.
Yes.
And so the covenant of blood.
And then you have several blood covenants there. You know, you have the blood covenant between husband and wife, and you have the blood covenant between mother and daughter, and father and daughter.
Right. So that was purposeful. Like, that was on purpose.
Okay. I love it. So when did you decide to write it? So I know, so you said that you had these different novellas, and when you were writing the novellas, did you see the end game of what it is today, or did you have to go back and scoop these all up and make them into a beginning, middle, end?
A little of both.
Okay.
So when I published the novellas, I didn't know anything about self-publishing. Totally new at it. The person who was teaching me how to go through it, she was like, oh, you can just publish it on Amazon. You know, she was like, I write novellas all the time, and, you know, I get paid X amount of dollars. At the time, I was really in need of some cash, so I was like, this would be a great way to do that.
Good motivation.
Yeah, but it turns out that, like, using Amazon's ISBN is not necessarily the best route to go.
Oh, okay.
And so,
did you hear that, writers? Using the Amazon ISBN is not the best way to go.
Not the best way to go.
Says this author. Why not? What happened?
So, well, it's not anything that happened particularly. It's just like when you publish with Amazon's ISBN specifically, it means that you can only sell your book on Amazon. If you try to get into a brick and mortar store like Barnes & Noble, like I was trying to do.
They're not going to be able to find it.
Yep, they can't find it in the system. So it's always best to buy your own from Bowker.
That is a really good tidbit.
Yeah. I tell people that all the time, because I'm always afraid that they're going to be looking for it in a brick and mortar and they can't find it.
That is really, really good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, and our studio audience agrees with you. That's good information to have.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sorry, you were...
Oh, yeah. So I found out Amazon was not the best way to go. So I was like, okay, I really want this in Barnes & Noble. So I was like, how can I do that? And then I started, like, looking up information about how to do that. And then I came across this woman named Monique DiMensa, who has all these...
Are we plugging Monique?
I'm sorry?
Are we plugging Monique? Say her name again?
Yeah, Monique DiMensa. She's got, I don't know what her company's called now. She's got a Facebook group, though, and she does these courses ever so often. She has a lot of free information on her Instagram and her Facebook, but she also has a course that teaches you how to, like, use your social media and stuff so you can market your things. The course is really good. I still suck at social media. I don't have the patience to do everything in there, but it's got a ton of good information. So if you have the time, I do it.
And so basically you're saying that when you get into this game, it's good to have a good social media platform.
Yes, it's excellent.
Even though you don't like doing it.
I'm just not good at it.
But you can get like Hootsuite and then you just publish it once and it hits all those different platforms.
Well, I actually tried a different... It was a different app that I used, but the one I used, it wasn't very good because because Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, they all had like different guidelines. So I'd have to like modify each post specifically for each of the platforms. I mean, I guess it's easier if you focus on one, but your ideal is to post on everything.
Yeah, and do it only once or twice.
Right.
So, you had these novellas, you pulled them together. Oh, how long did it take for you to, not necessarily write each novella, because that was probably years of, I'm assuming.
Not really.
Oh, well, look, girl, school me. Tell me how you did it.
No. So the first novella, it really only took me like 2-3 months. And then the second one was like the same thing. It was the ending that took me a while to get to.
Okay.
So like I said, after I learned about all this publishing stuff or whatever, I found an editor, and I had the editor like go through, and I was like, hey, I really want to publish this. What do I need to like have cohesive in here to like start my ending? So I got the editor to read the first 2 parts. She went through it, and then I wrote the ending after getting her feedback, and then I sent it back to her for the rest of the feedback. Having an editor is also very important.
Wow, yeah.
You can self-edit, but you'll miss some stuff. You'll miss a lot of things.
You're always going to miss something. So, okay, that's a very, very good point. So, you have an MFA in writing. Yes. So, you've known for some time that you wanted to write and be an author and to publish a book.
Oh, yeah.
So what inspired you to write And then what inspired you to write this book?
Oh, that's always fun. Third grade.
Third grade is
Third
when
grade.
you started writing? Okay.
Yes. So
okay.
third grade, I had this teacher, Miss Weinstein. Don't know where she's at now. She's one of my favorite teachers, though.
If she's watching
Yeah.
today, we want to thank Ms. Weinstein.
Yes. So
Third grade, and what school?
Jamestown Elementary.
Okay, Jamestown Elementary.
Yep.
Shout out to Ms.
Yes.
Weinstein.
Miss
Okay.
Weinstein. She was great. We were Miss Weinstein's Einsteins. That was our class name.
Very nice.
Yeah. So she would give us like writing prompts, and then some days she'd give us like free writes or whatever. And I don't remember everything the story entailed, but I remember one time we did this free write, and I ended up writing a story about the swamp girl, and I don't remember anything about what the story was about besides the swamp girl part. Anyways, she gave me some high kudos on that, and she told me she thought I had a really cool future as a writer. So
wow.
Yeah.
See, it's amazing. I mean, teachers or other adults in your life, when they give you that kind of encouragement and boost, it can go a long, long way.
it really can.
And look at you now. That is awesome. So, what was your process in writing this book?
Whew. It was an interesting process. So, like I said, it started with that letter, and then I did like not super deep research, but I looked at some Wikipedia pages to learn a little bit more about Vlad the Impaler and Elizabeth Bathory. And then I have like this timeline document that like has like their history up there and the years that it happened, so that I could make cohesive sense of how these characters came together. So as I was writing, I kept referencing that list. I forgot what the question was.
Your process?
Oh, yeah, so process. So looking at the timeline and writing, and I kind of just switched off between the two. And my process is kind of chaotic because I don't just follow one thing. Sometimes I write and listen to music. Sometimes I write in complete silence. I'm one of those people when I get like hyper focused on something, like I'm solely focused on that one thing. So usually when I'm writing, it's like I'll start like after work or something, and I'll be up to like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning if I get into the zone, because that's the best time for me to write. I'm actually a night owl, but day job, so can't be a night owl with a day job.
Vampire.
Kind of like a vampire.
But we're not making any comparisons here.
No, of course not.
Okay, so, and you actually, I was going to ask you about what is going on in your background, because I'm so fascinated by people who can write. It's almost like historical fiction, but it's not. Tell me, what genre would you say, would you place this in?
So it's urban fantasy.
Urban fantasy.
Yeah, I would say if I wrote about like her parents and their past, that would be more historical fiction.
Okay.
But this book technically takes place in like 2015. It's never expressly stated, but they've got smartphones and smartwatches. So obviously it has to be in the 2000s,
which is
somewhere.
So cool. Yeah. Because most of the time, and I don't watch the vampire stuff, but in the movies, of course, it was like modern day or whatever.
Right.
But I prefer the older, back when her parents were around.
Right.
Those kind of stories, because I just love that period in time, and it just so happens that vampires are, doing their thing at that time.
Right.
So, not that I believe in them, but not that I don't believe in them. Right. It's like the unicorn.
I mean, I think there's some truth to everything that we think of as magical or mythical.
We never know. So, are there any particular authors that you follow?
This is a very long list, too many to name.
But who are your top 3?
That's even harder.
Okay.
So
who immediately comes to mind?
Okay, in the vein of vampires, I would say Darren Shan.
Okay.
He's this. I think he's from England. But he wrote the Darren. He wrote the. I guess it's called the Darren Shan series. Anyways, it's about vampires too. His take is interesting though, because in his book it's like vampires and vampanese. And the vampanese are like the terrifying vampires that we think of, but but they turn purple from draining people's blood, and they have sharp red nails, and I don't know. It's a really good series.
And so the vampires are what?
The vampires in that one, they're just people who they don't drain people's bodies. They just take a little bit of the blood to survive, and they have all the original qualities. They have the super strength.
polite vampires.
Not necessarily. Some of them can be. It depends on. But they have some weird customs, and if you ever read the series, you'll find out what I'm talking about.
See, I'm fascinated again.
Yeah.
And who do you idolize that's not in that vampire realm?
Ooh, tough choice.
Right.
I would say recently I've gotten into. When I was younger, I've always wanted to see like black